First of all, I'd like to talk about the currencies and what's going on with them. We saw a little bit of more bearish posturing with the British pound going up slightly about 1,000 contracts. The Canadian dollar rose by quite a bit, but it slowed down a bit from the previous weeks. From 59 to 67,000, roughly about 8,000 contracts. Euro decreased and is slightly getting a little bit more uh, less short. The Japanese yen increased from 112 to 133,000. US dollar index decreased again this week, giving the bullish nod to 31 to 37,000, increasing roughly the same amount as the week prior, at even actually a faster rate. Mexican peso, which I've been talking about lately, is also a bullish currency. Uh, it's dropping too. It's did about 22% uh, positive, so that's bullish. Um, the Australian dollar, which is miraculously went bullish this week too, increased a lot, and is now a bullish currency in my view. Increased a lot, like tripled, quadruple. You want to name the leverage there. The S&P 500 decrease also gave you a little bit of a bullish nod, saying that this is a cash index and it's still increasing as well, but it's slowing down. So, okay, let's go to the other charts. We've got low volume all the way through except the Mexican peso for the last 5 days, which has given us some bullish volume of a total score of 8, which the volume in open interest has increased. It's a pretty non-liquid currency, but it's surpassed the 8 level, so that's bullish. And we'll look at down here. We saw a little bit of selling from the large speculators, which are the institutions, big institutions. Then we saw some buying from the hedge funds. So, I mean, you can weigh the odds either way, and probably just say two positives make a positive. So, or a negative and a positive make a positive. And then we saw an increase into commercials a little bit, but it's still overall pretty bullish. Um, but it's just slowed down just a tad this last past week. The Australian dollar, which is another bullish currency at the moment, uh, commercials decreased 22%. Large speculators increased 20%, and small speculators increased their holdings going long 24% from the week prior. And it's not at extreme, so that's pretty good. As you can see, the decrease of shorts, and the increase of small speculators. We'll go to the Japanese yen, which is an interesting currency, which last week gave a pretty strong sell signal, but it actually didn't do that this week too much. The commercials actually decreased this week. Their short position, and large speculators went positive 10%, and O'Neill came out of Goldman Sachs, the head of their currency department, and has said that the yen run is over, and the next thing you know, 2 days later, the yen has done a little bit of a rally. So they decreased their short positions, increased their long positions, and that was moderate, just increase, very slight. So we'll see what happens next week. It's still, we'll look more into the charts and see what's going on there with the technicals. The Swiss franc is still bearish, but it's not as more so. Before I get into this, I'm just going to take you to the news that just happened right now. Cyprus approved the first EU bailout programs and passes a bill on capital controls. Parliament passes a bill on solidarity. Blah blah blah. And yeah, so the short positions increased 79% for the euro, and that's not good for the euro for going into next week. Um, so if we go to the week prior when they tried putting taxes on levies of deposits, the market took it as a major negative. So we could see a switch um, from being positive to being uh, short for next week. It's already kind of overextended. It's ran about a cent and a half. We'll take a look at the euro and then we'll take a look at the Swiss. So we're in the June contract right now because that's where the option liquidity is. Just gonna pause this for a second. Okay, so here in the euro, we've seen a little bit of bullish posturing in the MACD, but the divergence is still negative, so we'll give that a bearish nod. The ADX has turned up and or the DI plus over just hitting the DI plus or DI minus, and that is kind of a neutral trend, and the ADX trend indicator is turned down. We're seeing it pretty flat below 50 RSI right now, and we've seen big money increase their net shorts and decrease their net longs. And the small speculators are pretty negative or consistently neutral on that one. So we'll go to the Swiss franc, which I'm not too interested in. So we'll go to the Australian dollar, and then we'll go to the Mexican peso, and then the US dollar index. So we'll go to classic. Okay, so this is the Australian dollar. We've seen a bullish nod on the MACD, giving positive divergence, and an increase in the ADX trending up, and we saw the DI minus and DI plus cross over each other, and now the DI plus is above the DI minus, so that's also a bullish nod, and we've seen a rising RSI above 60, not overbought, so we're seeing a very good position in the Australian dollar. For the US dollar index, we've seen a little bit of consolidation in range trading, lower volume, lower open interest. I just want to put open interest on just to kind of guide us. We've seen open interest drop off. Okay, so there's the open interest right there. It's kind of gone lower, which means the buyers didn't really come in this week. But again, big institutions have come in and bought, again, large contracts, and they've hedged their bets, so they're obviously leveraging, and small speculators are pretty much stagnant throughout the whole week on the US dollar. Just either they're playing the other currencies or the ESF, the S&P mini contract. So we've seen a little bit of negative divergence in the US dollar on the daily chart. We've seen DI minus crossover DI plus, and the trending indicator is kind of weak right now, and also the RSI is falling. Kind of just it's trending right now down. I'm not too bullish on the US dollar after seeing all this, and but I'm not ready to pull my convert my dollars all into Australian dollars and Mexican pesos as of yet. So I'd like to give it another week, see where it plays, play the US dollar pairs a little bit more, well, just the futures, and hopefully, we'll see what happens. So, okay, we'll take a look at the Mexican peso. during this week, volume was pretty high on the bullish side. It's uptrending. Um, what was not too negative was, or positive, was the commercial index was actually increasing their positions by 2%, and taking off 2% long, and but the small speculators made up with it for a little bit of a 4% buy. So it's still a currency to watch. It made it over the 8 level, like I said. Um, so we'll see what happens. I just want to touch on the British pound a little bit. There's still large institutions shorting this and going short, but seasonally it's a strong currency during this time till about April 4th. So that's why we've seen a little bit of a bounce. I was expecting it, wasn't going to go short it. Didn't really go long it, so uh, I mean I can play it either way, just using the charts. Okay, so for the indices, we've seen a little bit of bearish posturing on all the currency, or all the indices going down. Um, so we've seen a little bit of volume just dropping off, but we've seen buying across the board, so it's still going up. We'll see what the Greek deal does to the markets next week. We'll just take a quick look at the S&P 500 because that's my main gauge of the market. Still being bought, still being shorted, or shorts are covering, and still being bought by small speculators, so everything's kind of still intact. Just it's with lower volume, so that's why it's kind of stagnant around the 1550 level for last week, 5 days. Okay, for all you US dollar CAD lovers out there, I guess you'll be pleased with the technicals. MACD is going up. I gave the bullish convergence. ADX is trending down right now, signaling the end of the, or weakening of the downtrend. DI minus over DI plus crossed over, and now it's plus. RSI is strengthening in a trend line. But the bad news is there's still slight less than what was more in February, but they're still shorting the market. Institutions aren't holding. Small speculators bought the market last week. We're seeing lower open interest, so we're seeing less interest in this currency in a trending fashion. So that's that. And this is over 12 minutes. I said I wouldn't go over, well, actually it's over 13. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.